All right. How many of you I just stressed you out? Anybody? Did I just stress you out by having to write your to-do list down? Nobody? Okay. All right. Good job. Sometimes I go through seasons where that to-do list is so long that there seems no end in sight. And I look at my calendar, and I always look at month view, and there are one or two things after school. That's not even my during the day stuff. That's my after school stuff in there. And then I know that there's things that aren't written in there, like write the sermon and do my homework and that kind of stuff. And I think, oh my gosh, And I've gone through seasons. I go through seasons like this that gets really exhausting. And I remember specifically when I was in grad school, I was full-time grad school. I was an athletic trainer at the high school, so that's basically a full-time job. I was the cheerleading coach, and I was substitute teaching all at once. And trying to do my, and then trying to do my grad school work, as I basically lived at the school. I was there constantly. And I had been at that school for 2 years. In the first year, I was not the cheerleading coach, and I can't remember if I substitute taught that year or not. So at the end of the year, I had to give an evaluation for my athletic training. That was how they paid for my grad school, was to be the athletic trainer. And the assistant principal was also the athletic director. It was a school a lot like Ludlow, really small. And he's like, I love you and I love all you do for our school. You've been so great for our school, but honestly, you didn't do a very good job this year. He's like, I know you were trying really hard, but you just spread yourself so thin. You overcommitted yourself, and you just didn't do as good a job because you were so spread so thin. He's like, I understand. I'm not mad at you about it. I'm grateful that all that you did for our district, but as your job as an athletic trainer, you didn't do as good a job this year. And I remember calling my best friend during that season and just crying, and I'm like, I have so much going on. I'm so exhausted, emotionally, physically exhausted all the time, but everything I was exhausted over, was a commitment. I was committed to grad school. I was committed to being the athletic trainer. I was committed to being the cheerleading coach. And I was like, I can't get rid of anything because I'm in the middle of this commitment. And I remember when I first moved to Ludlow, same thing happened. I was in a small group. I was leading a Bible study. I was helping to lead a mission trip. I was doing all these things, and all of them were good. But it was every night. I have somewhere I had to be every single night. There was no space in my life for rest or renewal or fun or hey, just call up a friend. There was no space for that. And I was so overwhelmed and exhausted, and all of them were commitments. All of them were, I have to be in this for 10 weeks, or I have to be in this until we go on this mission trip, or I'm leading this Bible study. I can't just be like, hey guys, thanks for joining my Bible study. I know we're only halfway through it, but I'm out. I was kind of stuck in all these commitments, and I was like, this is supposed to be my season of rest. It was in the spring, which is my normal season of rest as a coach and a teacher, and I couldn't rest. And it was awful. And then I went into the next school year tired because I hadn't had the chance to get the rest I knew I was supposed to be getting. And for me, it's a constant struggle for me to keep myself from getting to that point again. Just this fall, I felt like every day I was on the brink of being overwhelmed. I would look at my calendar, and there would be 1 to 2 things on every single day after school. And then someone would say, hey, I need you to do this, or hey, can you do this? And I'm like, I don't know if I can. I am so tired. And I remember praying to God. I'm like, God, oh my gosh, I'm so tired. And he's like, did you give me your schedule? Oh, shoot. Nope, I did not. Have you guys ever seen, okay, good, you guys, Jared's probably never even heard of this show. Back in the early 2000s, when Jared was probably born, there was this show on TV called Clean Sweep. Does anyone remember this show? Clean Sweep. So what they would do is someone who had usually one room that was it was usually a spare bedroom or a basement or a garage. And it was almost like something out of Hoarders a lot of times. It was so cluttered they couldn't use it for what it was for. And so they would call the Clean Sweep crew in. The Clean Sweep crew would come, and they would take everything out of the room and put tarps down the front yard and put it on the tarps in the front yard. And then the owners had to go out and sort, and they had these like signs. And one said keep, and one said trash, and one said donate. And they had to go through every item and put it in the 3 piles. And while they were doing that, inside, people were redesigning the space. Painting and building stuff and decorating and whatever. And so then after the owner had sorted everything, what usually happened is the owner took 90% of the stuff from the original pile to the keep pile. And then the host of the show would have to come out and be like, okay, no. And they'd have a little therapy sesh on the front lawn, and they would talk about, okay, you've got all these toys, your kids are 10, and you've got a rattle. Do you really need to be keeping this like toy for a 1-year-old? But what if I have grandkids someday? Well, then you buy new toys. Like, you do not need to keep. You don't have the space and the capacity to keep all this stuff. And so then they would take the keep sign from where it was with 90% of stuff back to the original space that was now empty and be like, okay, now try it again. And then the owner would go through and they would try it again. They would get it down to a better amount. And then the crew would take all that stuff back into the space and stage it. And they would walk in and be like, oh my gosh, it looks amazing. It looks so much bigger and cleaner. And I can use this space again. And they were all excited. There's another one that's currently on Netflix called Tidying Up with Marie Kondo. And I tell you what, if you want to become a cleaner, like neater person, just watch a couple of that episodes and you'll be like, I got to do this. The Marie Kondo way is pretty awesome. I now fold my clothes in the Marie Kondo way, and it really is so much better. But she comes into a space, she usually does the whole house. And it's a 6-month process. So she comes in, she gets to know the owners a little, she prays over the house, which I love, and then she does it instead of by room, she does it by item. So first it's clothes. And they take all their clothes and pile them in one giant pile. And then the owner's job is to go through that pile, and this could take weeks. The owner's job is to go through the pile, hold up every single piece of clothing. One, does it still fit? Do I still use it? And if not, you thank it for its service, and it goes in the Goodwill pile. And then she comes back and helps them fold and sort and organize so that it fits in the space that they have. And I remember there was a family of 4, and the mom, I think she was a hairdresser, it doesn't matter, but she was the only one in the house that knew where stuff was. So she'd be at work and constantly all day be getting calls. Mom, where's my blue shirt? Mom, where's my backpack? Mom, where's this? Mom, where's that? Honey, where's this? Honey, where's that? And she had to emotionally keep track of where every item in the house was. And it was like piles of clothes everywhere, and it was so stressful, and it was a strain on the marriage. And so when they did all that, and then she teaches that everything has a place where it lives. That is its place, and that's where it is. And it's only in the drawer where it's supposed to be, or in the laundry. The end. It's not somewhere else. And I love when once you get done with the Marie Kondo way, she does clothes first, then she does books. Something, and then the last thing is like keepsakes and like things that have sentimental value. So, and papers is one of them. And so once you're done with it, your house is neat and organized and everything has its place. And she'll come in afterwards, and of course they interview the family. And almost every single time, if it was a family or a couple, more than one person, they're like, not only do I feel better, but our relationship is better. Because all those calls to mom were wearing mom out. All that, this is that, and why do you have so many of these, and I can't believe this, and I can't use this space because all your junk is over here, was causing a lot of stress and strain in the relationship. And so once they decluttered, it helped their relationship, it helped them feel better. And I just love both of those items, both of those shows show that when you have less on your plate, less to keep track of, you feel better, right? I'm realizing that my calendar becomes like something out of one of those shows. When I have so much to do, it is stressful and I can't rest. And how am I supposed to have relationships with my friends if I can't meet with my friends because I'm so busy all the time? And so I'm thinking about like how many of us feel overwhelmed all the time because we have so much to do, so much going on. We're exhausted all the time, and we wonder why we're crabby and tired all the time. It's because our lives are so cluttered with all this stuff. I think some of us need to do a clean sweep or a tidying up not only of our space, we might have to do one of our space, but of our calendar, of our to-do list. We are not meant to be exhausted and busy all the time. We're just not. God didn't make us that way. God worked for 6 days and rested on the seventh. And God, nowhere in the Bible does God say, work furiously until you're exhausted. In fact, instead, here's a meme. How many of you can relate to this one? Yeah, this is me. You guys remember Sarah Schwabe? She was here for a little bit. When I'd run into her at the pool, she'd say, how's it going? I'm like, it's good. It's really busy. But in a couple weeks, it'll be better. And after about a month or two, she's like, every time I see you, you say the same thing. Every time I see you, you say, it's good. I'm busy. It'll be better in 2 weeks. And she's like, it's been more than 2 weeks, and you're not better. And I was like, oh, you got me. Yeah. But the Bible says, because, I'm on, what does the Bible say? Instead, come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. I will give you rest. So when you are exhausted and heavy laden and feel tired and feel like you can't keep up, God says, don't just try to finish the to-do list so you can rest. God says, give me the to-do list, and I will give you rest. I'll trade you. And so sometimes I think about taking my to-do list or I pull up my calendar on my phone and I imagine myself like handing it to God. Here you go. What a lot of us do, we go, here it is. Give me the strength to get through it. God's like, no. Give it here. And our job is to hand it over to him so he can give us rest back in return for it. And I have found that when I give him my calendar, and I'm good about it, and I do good for a while, and then I forget, because things I'm like, okay, things are fine, and then I forget, and then I'm like, ah! But if I say, Lord, here's my calendar, this looks overwhelming to me, things just come out. Meetings have to get changed or canceled, people can't meet with me when they're supposed to, whatever, like things get just pulled out of the calendar, or I find pockets of rest, or a job gets done way faster than I thought it would do, thought it would get done. Something is way easier than I thought it would be. And I'm like, oh. And I'm one of those people, I'm so used to being Mach 2 with my hair on fire, that when, this week, I had a couple days, I was home at 7 and all the work was done, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. Do I just watch TV for 3 hours? Should I find a job that I'm going to have to do next week and start trying to do it now? Because I don't know how to rest. I find myself, I get so busy, I forget how to rest, and I feel guilty if I'm resting because I'm so used to being go, do all the time. And God says, no. Stephanie, stop it. Stephanie, I need you to be still. Know that I am God. You come to me, you tell me how much you love me, you give me hold over your life, and I will give you rest back. If you will surrender your schedule and your life and your story and the things you have to do to me, I will help you so that you have rest, because God wants us to be a people of rest and trust and faith. He does not want us to be a people who are exhausted all the time. That is not his plan for us. And so your job this week is to take that to-do list or your calendar and do it. You might have to do a clean sweep on it or a tidying up. Take that list. Is there something on there that you don't need to do? I'm one of those people, I tried to put it up here and I couldn't find it. It was a meme and it was Dory from Finding Nemo. And she's like, I've got so much to do, I can't even possibly, I'm so overwhelmed. She's like, ooh, new project. And I'm like, that's totally me sometimes. I'm like, I've got so much to do. Let me hand bake these cookies that I have to mix and freeze and then bake and then decorate. No, go buy Loft House cookies. The kids at school will not know the difference between my homemade cutout cookies and Loft House cookies. Or I'll be like, oh man, I'm so overwhelmed. I know, I should start this new project. And it's going to take all this time and effort. And I'm like, ugh. And I'm going to brag just for a second. I had this great idea. I'm like, I'm going to do this Advent thing about the origins of the Christmas story, and then I'm going to do a Facebook and Instagram every day of Lent. I'm going to do a Lenten calendar that has all the like origins of all the Christmas like candy canes and jingle bells and all that stuff, and it's going to be so cool. And then I was like, I was like, yeah, this is going to be exciting. I ordered the book, I started reading the book, and then I started really thinking about how much time and effort that's going to take me to read the story, make the post it, and like all this stuff, and I'm like, stop it. You do not have the time and the capacity for that right now. Just step away. Step away from the plan, write it down. You can do it some other year when you're not in seminary and like exhausted. And sometimes that's what we have to do. Sometimes we have to say, that's a great idea for some other day. And I'm going to write it down and put it over here for some day when I'm not exhausted. Sometimes we need to say no. Like my friend Jill, we were talking about how people just get so overwhelmed. And she's like, have you noticed that you tend to say yes to things because no one else will do it? And you just say yes. And now you're overwhelmed all the time because now you're on site-based counsel and you're on the Live Well counsel and you're on this and you're on that. And I'm like, yeah, but they're each once a month. She's like, but you're on 5 of them. So if you're on 5 committees that each meet once a month, now you've got once a week, you've got a committee. Well, shoot. She's like, stop it. Let someone else do it. It's okay to let it not get done. Or I'll be like, oh, I'm going to do a project. I'm going to go to Home Depot and I'm going to buy all this stuff. And I'm like, hold on. Do I have time to do that project? No. Don't you go to Home Depot and buy all that stuff. You just wait until you actually have time to do the project, which is not right now. Right? So when I am so busy, do I have time to hang out with God? I don't know about you guys, but I can talk at God all day long, but if I want to hear from God, I've got to sit still. I've got to put myself in a quiet place because he speaks in a quiet voice. If I'm exhausted and running around like a chicken with my head cut off, do I have time to, if a friend calls up and says, hey, what you doing? Do you want to get dinner? I'll be like, no, I got 85 things to do. Like I've had friends be like, I was going to call you, my brother, he'll say this, I thought about calling you just to chit chat, but I know you're really busy and I figured you wouldn't be available. And so like I have relationships in my life that have suffered, friendships and relationships that are not strong anymore because I've been so busy, they know that I don't have time for them. And that makes me really sad that I'm missing out on these relationships because to me, God is a God of relationship. I'm sure he is way more excited about me having a good relationship with my brother than retrimming out my room, my back room. I'm sure he'd way more likely me to go out to dinner with a friend than hand make all these cookies that I could just buy. And so your homework is to take your to-do list and or your calendar and hand it to God. Or sit down and go, okay, I'm going to make a keep, a trash, and a save for another day pile. And I'm going to move everything from this to-do list into one of these 3 things. What doesn't need to be done? What could I outsource? What could I find someone else to do? What could I just buy at the grocery store or order on Amazon instead of hand making? So that's your job. And to start to make a habit of praying over your schedule, handing your schedule off to God, especially when it feels overwhelming, and be like, God, help. Don't go, God, help me over here, do all these things. Go, here, I'm giving this to you. Do what you want with it. Take stuff off of it, get stuff done, help me do it, show me what I need to do. But Lord, I'm giving you my time. I'm giving you, Lord, my energy. Help me have time to rest. And when I have time to rest, don't you go find a project to fill in that space. Because I'm one who'll do that too. Oh, I get to sit still for a couple hours. I know. I'll go start a project. That'll take me 4 days instead of the 2 hours that I have here. Just rest. Allow yourself to breathe, to pray, to talk to the Lord, to call up a friend and be like, hey, how's it going? Hey, you want to go get a drink? You want to go get dinner? Take out some of that stuff and leave space in your life for God and for the relationships and for your own emotional and mental and spiritual health and rest. And all of God's people said, amen.